Okay, our next episode is called The Emissary. It's episode number 46 for the Next Generation, and originally aired on June 24th, 1989. It was written by Richard Manning and Hans Beimler, based on an unpublished story by Thomas H. Calder, and directed by Cliff Bull. Alright, and plot-wise with this episode, responding to an emergency message from Starfleet, the Enterprise warps to intercept a Class 8 probe. And in the probe, it carries an emissary with information on the ship's next mission. After beaming the probe aboard, Riker and Transporter Chief O'Brien open the 2-meter... Alright, our next episode is called The Emissary, and it's episode number 46 for the Next Generation. It originally aired on June 24th, 1989. It was written by Richard Manning and Hans Beimler, based on an unpublished story by Thomas H. Calder, and it was directed by Cliff Bull. Now, plot-wise with this episode, responding to an emergency message from Starfleet, the Enterprise warps to intercept a Class 8 probe. And believe it or not, inside the probe is an emissary who has information on the ship's next mission. So Riker and Picard are especially wondering who would want to travel in such a fashion to be in such a closed environment like a probe. Well, after beaming the probe aboard, Riker and Transporter Chief O'Brien open the 2-meter enclosure, and K'Ehleyr steps out. She is half human and half Klingon, and 6 years ago she and Worf knew each other quite well, although they parted on bad terms, unfortunately. Now, in a briefing with the senior staff, K'Ehleyr explains that a Klingon ship sent out 73 years ago is returning from a secret mission. Now, the warriors aboard the ship were placed in suspended animation while the Klingon Empire was still at war with the Federation. So when the Klingons wake up, they'll undoubtedly begin attacking the Federation outposts and colonies in the area. Now, since the closest Klingon ship is several days away, the Enterprise has the unenviable task of solving this problem. Now, K'Ehleyr recommends only one solution: basically destroy the Klingon ship as soon as they find it. These are Klingons that will attack, so that's the only solution she sees. However, Picard dismisses the meeting and instructs that K'Ehleyr and Worf find other options. Now, Worf at first doesn't want the assignment because of their history, but Picard makes Worf reconsider this because professionally he thinks they could work well together. Now, when Worf and K'Ehleyr are alone, she tries to turn the conversation to their past, but Worf refuses to discuss the events of 6 years ago. So in anger, K'Ehleyr storms back to her quarters and then ends up on the holodeck and takes out her aggressions on Worf's calisthenics program. Now, Worf also is looking to relax because of the stress between them, and he comes into the holodeck and sees that the program's running and decides to join K'Ehleyr. And after they work out together and increase the difficulty to level 2, they end up basically having a Klingon mating ritual right there in the holodeck. And it's quite graphic, as you can see, not in necessarily the traditional sense, but in one close-up we see them joining hands together, and it's so tight that they actually bleed. And I guess that's how Klingons get it on, apparently. But Worf then tries to take the oath of marriage, but K'Ehleyr refuses. And Worf is really hurt that she would insult the traditions of the Klingons, because that was the natural thing for Worf to do after they got together there. And K'Ehleyr just is not ready for that. Now, meanwhile, the Enterprise locates the rogue Klingon ship, and suddenly Worf has an inspiration. He and K'Ehleyr will dress in Klingon uniforms and pretend to be in command of the Enterprise, and convince the Klingon captain that the Empire has defeated the Federation. Now, Worf then sends K'Ehleyr over to take command until a present-day Klingon vessel arrives, and they keep them up to speed on what's really going on. So as K'Ehleyr leaves the Enterprise, Worf says that he will never forget her, and K'Ehleyr does admit that even though she did not take the oath, it wasn't that their time together didn't mean anything. It's just that she was not quite ready for that. So they part on a little better terms, but they do part once again, and that is the end of the episode. And really, the creators of this episode really had some great things to say about it. Now, Maurice Hurley, who was one of the producers at the time, really said that it was a great idea and one that worked from top to bottom. It was hard not for it to work. But Cliff Bull, also, who was the director of the episode, he also felt like the show went well and thought that Michael Dorn did a really good job. He thought Susie Plaxton was a little broad in her. He let her go in that direction really in that episode. But again, at this point, you can make up a lot about what a Klingon is and what a Klingon does. Really, up to this point, we've just seen Worf, and we've really just had one episode that's had other Klingons in it. So you can still make up a lot of stuff like that. So I think Cliff Bull was, he didn't necessarily see that as a huge negative necessarily, but that was just his take on it. And Kalar actually was played by Susie Plaxton, who actually was the Vulcan Dr. Solar in The Schizoid Man, which I reviewed earlier in the season. But originally, Tracy Torme, who wrote that episode, he wanted to develop a romance between Solar and Worf. And it was actually nixed by the producers because they knew the Emissary was being planned, and that was going to be Worf's romance there. And they used Susie Plaxton for that one, and she does a great job. I think there's a lot of debate who some of the sexiest aliens are in Star Trek. I don't know if she is the top, but I think she's near the top. I actually met her at one of the Star Trek conventions, and just a great actress and a great lady, and a great character, I think, for Kalar in this episode. So hope you guys enjoyed that, and yeah, comment below, let me know what you think of this particular episode. I'll see you guys next time.